I loved it. Oh god, I love Freya Mask. I love this series. Yeah. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we are doing December's reading wrap up, and I'm doing it slightly different because I want to trial this way of doing it where we go through a couple of stats at the start of the video and you have to let me know what you think. It's going to be easier from January and we'll have actually different things because I'm going to be tracking things differently in my 2025 reading journal. But this is a good trial run to see how we feel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But we have read a total of 9 books, with 2 of them being short stories. The formats was 7 of them physical, with the 2 short stories also being physical reads, so technically 9, and then 2 ebook. We've had 2 DNFs and 4 soft DNFs this month, which I will get into, and then just a brief overview of the genres, this is what's going to be a little bit easier once I actually have it properly done in my journal. 2 of them being mystery books plus 1 of the short stories, 4 fantasy, 2 romance, 1 other, and 1 of the short stories which is other at the minute, which again I'll get to. And I just wanted to note how many of them were cozy books, and there were 3 cozy books. Those are the stats. We've got quite a lot to talk about because I've got some bits from November to talk about, because as usual my cozy new releases video doesn't come out until the month following, so I read these in November, the video for it didn't come out to December, so I'm going to talk about them now and then we'll get into the December read. I actually DNF'd 1 of the cozy books, which is An Author's Guide to Murder, and this was meant to be following 3 mystery authors that all get together to this little island in Scotland to try and solve a cold case, except we actually know they're there for a completely different reason. The premise was interesting, but the writing was terrible. I really didn't like it. I didn't like the way they spoke about Scotland in general. I was like, clearly these authors have never actually been there. Like, I didn't like any of the characters. You got the 3 different perspectives. I just thought it was really not worth it. Plus the actual plot line of the cold case that happened like years and years beforehand was based on an actual thing that did happen in history, but they moved it to Scotland instead of France, and I'm like, but why? And they based it in this castle, Kinloch Castle, which is an actual castle in Scotland, but none of this history is to do with this castle, so none of it made sense. I was not happy with any of it, so that was a DNF. I also read The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Young, and I loved this book. I thought it was so cute and cozy. I really connected to it. It was just this beautiful little story about Tao, who tells small fortunes. Goes from town to town telling small fortunes, and she does feel a little bit lost. She feels like she doesn't quite fit in because she's from a different place to the place where she's telling these small fortunes, even though she's been there the majority of her life. But she is always shunned and outcast because she looks different, until she comes across these 2 men. One's ex-mercenary, one's a reformed sort of thief, and they are looking for this little girl, and they team up with Tao, and they also along the way end up picking up this baker with a need for adventure. We also have a cat that comes along. Like, there's just so much, and a lot of it, sure, is very convenient at times and stuff, but this is cozy fantasy. If that is what you're after, just with a bit more of a traveling story, found family going on, this is exactly that. I really enjoyed that one. So at least we had 1 win for that cozy video. There is opportunity to do more within this world because there is so much that you could explore in this world, which I really liked, about the magic system, about the political alliances, just so much which could definitely be developed on, but it also does work as a standalone. So I really liked this one. So that's November. Now we're going to move into December. I just want to mention the book I didn't get to on my TBR, which is The Magician's Daughter by H.G. Parry. I really did want to get to this, but I ended up getting ill for the majority of December. This never got round to reading it, but it will go back on the shelves. It will get read at some point. It's meant to be another cozy fantasy. It's one that I am looking forward to reading. We'll just move straight along into the 4 soft DNFs. 2 of them are ebooks. One is Head Like a Hole. This is a horror thriller book that I am really intrigued to continue, but at the time I was reading this for Battle of the Booktuber, doing all my research, as you would have heard several times throughout videos in December. In the end, didn't end up using this as a recommendation, but I am intrigued to continue. We are following this woman who has been approached by this podcaster who knows about her past, and she's like, oh god, my past is catching up to me, and that is what she is recounting to us about how something happened when she was in college with this girl who was an exchange student. It's really weird and unusual, but we're following it just after college when it seems like this person is back in a really weird way. We also have a crabber that's found this decapitated head that is somehow alive. That's really gory. That's where all the horror stuff comes in. The timeline jumps around a bit. We follow different perspectives and stuff. I'm really intrigued just to see how all these seemingly separate things come together. So this is a book I am interested in continuing on with. Then we have Cage of Souls by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a sci-fi author that I've never read from before, but I'm really intrigued by, and this one I really liked. Again, was doing it as a bit of research, decided not to go with it, but I am really intrigued to carry on. In this one, we're following someone that is a prisoner who's going to this island. You get to serve your sentence there, but good luck if you survive it, because everything around this island is absolutely deadly and dangerous, and let alone the people that reside on this island. And the person that's telling us this story, we are slowly getting snippets of how he ended up on this island, but we don't get the full story. It's definitely going to be something that's slow. This is a character study book. It is very slow, but I love it. I love a slow character study book. I don't know what it is, but if that character is interesting, I will sit there and eat it up and take the time. I really like it because we're slowly getting to know about this prison island, how it works, the people that reside there, but then we're also slowly starting to get little bits of this person's life and how he ended up, plus just in general finding out little pieces of this world, but it is slowly being given to you, which I quite like, and I am intrigued to see how this again is all going to go. Both of those ebooks I am interested in continuing. I have them on my Kindle and I will get to them at some point, especially the sci-fi one probably sooner than the horror one, just because I'm really intrigued by this author. I really want to get more into sci-fi, so I feel like this is going to be a really good book. But if you do, I know there's a few people in Discord that's already told me that they love Adrian Tchaikovsky, but if you have read from him, do let me know where is a good point to start with his books. I know someone was telling me on Discord that this one they liked, Cage of Souls, but it's not as good as their other works, so I'd be really intrigued to see where you think I should start. I know there's like Children of Time, I think, was it Model Service Model is another one that's recently come out. Like, I am intrigued by this author. I think it's going to be really good to read more of. Then another one I'm continuing on, The Imposium, a health resort horror story by Olga Tukocki. This is a Polish book, I want to say. Yes, it's translated by Antonia Lloyd-Jones, and this is a book that I originally picked up because I had hoped to go to my local book club's in-person book club. Never actually got around to doing that, unfortunately. But this book really intrigued me. It is a book that is inspired by a really big chunky classic book. I want to call it The Magic Mountain, I think it is. Yes, The Magic Mountain. I feel like this is a lot more doable than The Magic Mountain, which is a huge book. But this, I don't know, it was giving me vibes of like Dracula when we're doing it. So we're following a main character that is going to this health resort. On their way there, the way the locals act, the descriptions of this health resort gave me immaculate Dracula vibes, so I really loved that. There is something going on at this health resort that is really sinister and unusual. We've had one of the matrons, like the women there looking after them, die seemingly by suicide, except she's not the first, and so that's really curious to see why do these people keep dying. Our main character keeps hearing things in the night. We also have a Renfield type character as well, so I am really intrigued to continue this. With everything that I was trying to read, I just never got a chance to actually read it, and then once the date for the book club had passed, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna at some point restart this, because I was reading this when I was tired, not really focusing on it, but I am really intrigued. Like, every time I think about this book, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a really good book. I want to reread what I've read. I got up to page 90 and then give this a proper go. It's not too long a story. It's like just over 300 pages, so it's not going to take me too long to read it, but I think this is going to be really good, and I'm really interested in this author's because this author has done a few other different books. Like, I think it was Drive Your plough over the bones of the dead or something, which is meant to be really lauded, really liked. Very intrigued to actually give this one another try, and I definitely want to. This is not a proper DNF. This is literally a soft DNF when I'm back in the mood for this sort of thing, maybe later in the year. I think it will be really good, especially because of those Dracula vibes and the fact that it's also based on another book, which if I really like this one, it would then make me tempted to read The Magic Mountain, but that's a huge book. We'll see if I can work my way up to that, but I'm really looking forward to reading this, and it's meant to be like a blending horror story, comedy, folklore and feminist parable. It sounds really good. Okay, so that's that one. The other one that's a softer DNF is meant to have been in my Cozy New Releases video, so I'm not going to give you any details because that video will be coming out shortly after this video. Peculiar Garden of Harriet Hunt by Chelsea Iverson. This was mismarketed, and that's all I'm going to say on it. I do actually want to give this one a read, like to finish it. I got up to chapter 7, page 89. I do want to continue with it, but this was mismarketed, so it didn't work for that video, and I didn't have time to fit it in anywhere else so far. So those are books that I will be continuing on with at some point. It just didn't happen in the month of December. Another book I'm continuing on with, but is not a DNF for now, because this is my seasonal short story collection, which is Midwinter Murders by Agatha Christie. I read one short story in December. I have since read another short story. I'm hoping to just finish this out over January and February. If you've been on my channel for a while, you know I like to have a short story collection seasonally to read through, and this is the last of my seasonal Agatha Christie short story collection, which I've really loved going through these. Some of these duplicates in other short story collections that I have read, but I really enjoy reading these. I love Agatha Christie. I just love having a little bite-sized mystery to read every so often. Like, it just really works. I'm a short story person. I really like this, so that's great. We'll be continuing on with that. With all of that out the way, shall we get into the actual physical reads that I finished? The Snow Queen, and this is in the Hans Christian Andersen collection. I really enjoyed that little story. It's not a fairy tale that I'd read before, so I was really intrigued by this one. I liked it. I thought it was good. However, the main reason why I read it is because of the Discord book club pick for December, which was The Raven and the Reindeer by T. Kingfisher, which is inspired by the Snow Queen, and I much prefer this version. I thought this was brilliant. You can really see the influences of the Snow Queen. Definitely more of a direct retelling, but it expands upon things that I think needed expanded upon and changes things that I think works better for me as a reader. So I'm really happy with this one. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of T. Kingfisher's backlog. Bryony and Roses, I had a few people commenting in the Discord who had read both this and Bryony and Roses. They said that Bryony and Roses they prefer, so I'm really intrigued to get to that. But this one is an older one. It was published in 2017, and this is great to read in winter. We are following Goethe, and Goethe's friend, like childhood friend Kay, is taken by the Snow Queen, and she sets out on this journey to try and get him back. Got all your traditional fairy tale beats to it. You've got different trials and tribulations that you have to overcome, things to do with the reindeer road, and there's mouse bones, and I loved it. I thought it was so well done, just cementing for me that I just continue to love T. Kingfisher's work. They can do no wrong in my opinion. I think they're such a solid author, and I just really get on with their writing. We then have the book that I was reading for the majority of the month, which is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norl by Susanna Clarke. This was my reread, and I am so happy I reread this book. It was wonderful. This book is, I mean, it's a chunker. It's so good. It's so worth the time. I'm really pleased I took my time with it as well, although some of that time was due to being ill, and I wouldn't have wanted to take quite as long as I did because I was really invested, really loving it, but couldn't fully sit down and read it all because I was so ill. But this book is just so good. We are following Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norl. Mr. Norl is the first character that we meet. He is, well, the first main character we meet. We actually meet a couple of side characters first, but Mr. Norl is a cantankerous old man who proclaims that he is going to bring English magic back to England, except everyone's a bit like, excuse me, no, we're theoretical magicians, we don't actually practice magic. And Mr. Norl goes, well, I do. and I'm going to convince you to allow me to bring magic back. And that is pretty much the first 250 pages. It's slow, it's dry, because you're following Mr. Norl and he is a dry character, but it's so worth it. Like, I love the descriptions, I think the writing is gorgeous, and then when you get Jonathan Strange's perspective, it's so good. Jonathan Strange is another young magician, and he is very different to Mr. Norl. He is a lot more open. He's like, we need to share magic, we need to teach people magic, and Mr. Norl was like, no, we don't, nope, not at all. But it's really fun to see in their interactions, because at the same time Mr. Norl was actually like, oh, but I really like having someone to talk to magic about, and values the friendship a lot, and it's really interesting to see their back and forth. We also have the Napoleonic Wars going on at the same time, and there's also a character within Fairy that ends up having a big impact on the storyline, and all of these supposedly weird tangents all end up connecting together. On top of that, we also have footnotes in this book, which some of them are very small and some of them are stories within the story. It's so good, it's so good, and a lot of people were saying how yes, it's really dense and dry, but it's also comforting, and I 100% agree. I think this is such a wonderful book. So many different things it explores. I've spoken about it pretty much in every single video in the month of December, so I will stop talking about it, but I really like it. If you can get past those first 250 pages, for me, that's where it really picks it up. Some people feel differently, obviously everyone's different, but I adore this book. I adore it so much. Talking about Susanna Clarke though, we have The Wood at Midwinter, which I read for the Relax and Readathon that happened in December. I will have that video linked below if you're interested. And this is their newest little work. Now, this is a very short story. It's beautiful with gorgeous illustrations. This would not be out of place as a footnote in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norl. And I think if you see it that way, it's better. This is very childlike. It is basically just this fairy tale about this girl that wants more than anything to become a mother, but not necessarily to a human child. And you're just seeing that, like, she can interact with the wind, different animals and things, and it very much is a fairy tale. That is what it reads like a modern day children's fairy tale, which is why I think it would work so well as a footnote within Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norl. After reading this and then reading the author's note and everything, I was a little bit like, oh, it was okay, but I don't know how I feel about it. Then doing my reread of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norl and get into those longer footnotes, it was then that I was like, actually, that's where this should be. If you saw it that way, as like, we're getting an extra footnote that could have fitted into this story, I think you would like it. But I think if you're going to this having only read Piranesi, I think you're going to be really disappointed in it. Then we have a book that I loved, and I finished up a series. I finished 2 series in December. I'm pretty impressed with myself, and that is A Power Unbound by Freya Marske. This is the 3rd book in the Byington series that starts off with A Marvellous Light. I loved it. Oh god, I love Freya Marske. I love this series. Solidified to me that Freya Marske is an author where I just want to buy everything that they write. This was so good. It was such a good conclusion to a series. Each book you follow 2 different characters, but they all are connected to each other in some way. In the first book, we are following Robin and... damn, why can I never remember his name? Robin and another guy. One of them knows about magic, one of them does not. One of them is then introduced to magic when he has to get a job because his family's fortunes are failing, and so he has to get this job. His job that he is offered is, hey, be our go-between with magic, and he's like, magic's real? And then also gets caught up in a murder mystery. There's also a gay romance going on. It's such a good book. It's historical set, really good. The second book then follows one of the main characters' sister, and then we get introduced to another character, and then in this book, all the different characters connect together. It works so well. I love it. Each book has a different mystery, apart from in this one because it's wrapping up the overarching plotline. It's almost like Truly Devious in that way, where Truly Devious, you had the first 2 books had their own separate mystery, and then the 3rd book was closing up the overarching mystery that's been going on. Same thing happens in here. Really like it. I think it's so good. If you want a historical fantasy romance with a bit of mystery, this is the series to go for. I thought it was so well done. I really like the setting. I really like the characters. I love the romance, and I did enjoy the mystery parts of this. It's just got everything that I love in a series. So yeah, this was a fantastic conclusion. Would reread this series. Would highly recommend this author. I think Freya Marske needs more hype. The other series I finished up is the Garden Spells series. So I read First Frost by Sarah Addison Allen. This is the follow-up to Garden Spells. Love this book. Do I love it as much as Garden Spells? Slightly no, but this book is taking place 10 years later, and I think that was the perfect amount of time to have between the books. And we are following Bay, which is the daughter of Sydney, who we are following in the first book. So in the first book we follow two Waverley sisters, Sydney and Claire. We see the Waverleys, how they're slightly different in this little town where each family has their own unique little ability. The Waverleys are seen as kind of the most magical, and they've got this magical apple tree. In this book we are following Bay, Sydney's daughter. We still get perspectives from Sydney and Claire, but the main story is surrounding Bay and her story now that she's grown up, and I just thought it was really wonderful. I will say the timing of this book threw me off a little bit because it actually takes place around Halloween, even though it's called First Frost. I was expecting it to be more December time, and it's not. It's as early as Halloween, but it works really well. I think it was really nice to see the family 10 years later. I think any earlier and it wouldn't have worked, but I think having that 10 years works really well, and I really liked it. And again, this book just solidified to me that I love Sarah Addison Allen. I definitely want to read all of their works that they've got out. I think they're such, again, another underrated author. If you just want a cozy magical realism book, it really works. I never really thought magical realism was for me, but reading these, it just worked. It worked so well. So I'm really happy with this. I thought it was beautiful and magical. It was everything I wanted it to be. I really liked the plot line in this one, and yeah, I'm really happy, and I feel very happy to leave the Waverley family here because I think it just wrapped up everything really nicely, and I don't know, I really liked it. I thought it was wonderful. The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. This is the main book I read during the Relax and Readathon, and I really enjoyed this. This is a cozy, spicy romance. It's just fun. In this one we are following Kira. Kira's moved to take over this Christmas tree farm. She did not look into it. She just saw all the Instagram girlies taking over these houses and running their little self-efficient times, and she thought, you know what, I can do this. She needed something different. She's had a big change in her life. She's feeling like she's never really done anything for herself. She's realizing how lucky she's actually been, and so she decides that I need to move and I need to do this for myself. Except what she doesn't think about is that this place is really run down. She didn't know that before buying it, didn't think about all the hard work it was going to take. Enter Ben. Ben is visiting his sister, who runs the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which the first book runs centers on, which I still haven't read. I've read the second and third book. He is notorious for trying to help people, for being a fixer, and when he meets Kira accidentally by walking across the Christmas tree farm, not realizing that it's actually privately owned now, he realizes, oh, you don't have heating, you don't have all these different things, and he automatically wants to just try and help her, ensues a little romance as well as other things going on. Do I think there were certain plot lines in this story which were convoluted and we didn't need? Yes. Do I think they were well wrapped up? No. These books are fun though. Like, I'm not going into these for the best writing. I'm only actually going to get the rest of the series on Kindle. I have the first two books on Kindle, but I just wanted one for my shelves, and I figured as I wanted to read this one for the readathon that I would own this copy. And this is a book that I would reread, not every Christmas, but maybe like every other Christmas or something, because it really does give you those Christmas vibes, which I really like. And I do like this little town. I think Dream Harbour is such a lovely, cozy little place. There's kind of like tiny sprinkles of magic here and there. It just all kind of works. I really love it. I love the community. I love seeing our different characters. I haven't been disappointed yet. So I do still need to read that first book. We have the next book, I think it's coming out in March, which is to do with the pancake place, I want to say. I just enjoy this series. I think it's just a lot of fun. It's cute, easy, don't really need to concentrate too much on it, but I enjoy it. Never thought I would actually be that much of a romance girly. I honestly didn't think I would, and then I'm like realizing actually I love romance in my stories. I just think they're so cute and heartwarming, and it's just it's lovely. Okay, then we're gonna move on to the Christmas mystery themed reading vlog, and I did read another ebook. Why didn't I write this down? I'll get it in a second. But I read The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding by Agatha Christie. This is a collection of short stories. There are 6 short stories in here. 2 of them I had read before. 1 I'd read ages and ages ago, so it didn't bother me reading. But this is just a collection of murder mysteries. The first one is actually Christmas themed. The rest of them weren't, but I still really enjoyed it. I read one per day during that reading vlog and I had a really good time with it. Murder mystery stories, classic Hercule Poirot. I just really enjoyed this. I thought it was really a lot of fun. I've read a lot of short story collections by Agatha Christie this year, and this is, I mean, it goes with what I enjoy. So I was very happy to have read that one. I was meant to read The Christmas Murder Game by Alexandra Benedict. I ended up DNFing there. I knew there was another book I did. Wow, this video is a bit of a mess. I always do this. I'm always like, okay, I'm going to put things in order. So I've got my DNFs together, my ebooks together, things like this. End of the video. No, I mean, it works because this is all part of the same themed vlog. This I DNF. The premise was good. We're following our main character who has been invited back to her family home where she hasn't been in ages because her mum died there 21 years ago. But it is a family tradition to do this Christmas game. You have 12 days of Christmas, 12 clues, 12 keys. But this one is different because the winner of this one gets the deed to the property, and you also find out what happened to our main character's mother and how she was actually murdered and it wasn't suicide. I mean, the premise sounds really good. Didn't get on with the writing style, unfortunately. The writing for me just didn't really work. I just thought, you know what, I could push myself, read this and then be like, it was an okay average book and not really have any thoughts. Or I could swap my reading around and instead read Snows of Western Moor by Benedict Brown, which I really enjoyed. This is a 1920s murder mystery themed book. It is actually part of a series, but the Christmas ones, which I have read 2 of them now, can be read out of order. And I swear to God, I am going to read the first book in this series this year. I have to, because I really like it. I love the Lord Egerton series. So in this one, we are following our main character, Christopher, who he is kind of like his uncle's assistant. So his granddad's assistant. I don't know where I'm getting uncle from. Granddad is a retired detective who was very proficient in his career, and he's kind of taken Christopher under his wing, and each book you've got a different murder mystery that they're trying to solve. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I was so like, oh, I know who's done this. Da, 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 da. Completely wrong, of course, as usual, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good time. I like the vibes of this. It's got very much callbacks to Agatha Christie as well as other Golden Age, presumably. I just haven't read any other Golden Age authors yet. Really want to rectify that because I really do like mystery books and I love Agatha Christie, and I'm really intrigued to see what the rest of Golden Age is like because I seem to really enjoy mystery books that are inspired by Golden Age crime, so I definitely need to read more. I might have to just badger Leandra about where to start with Golden Age crime because she is the one to go to. If you're ever interested in murder mysteries, Golden Age crime, things like that, go to Leandra. She is really good for it. But this one I really enjoyed. A really nice cozy story. We have the family, they're meant to be going off to, I think, is it somewhere near the coast, I'm going to say, for Christmas. On the way, Lord Egerton and Christopher get waylaid and end up at this house, and they're actually broken down, stuck in the snow, and while they're there, a murder happens, and of course they have to try and solve it, and I really liked it. I thought it was really fun. The Christmas vibes were immaculate. It really worked for the time that I was reading it in and the actual reason why I was reading it. I'm so happy I swapped from this book to The Snows of Western Moor because it really, really worked. But there we are. Those are all the books that I read in the month of December. You have to let me know, have you read any of these? Would you read any of these? What was your favourite or least favourite read of December? You'll have to let me know. And thank you so much for watching. I can't believe 2024, that's it, we've closed it out. That's amazing. I mean, to be fair, my reading year was pretty good. The next Sunday video will be my top books of the year. We'll be doing a reflection looking back on 2024 as well as going over my favourite books of it. So I'm really looking forward to doing that video, and just, yeah, I think 2024 was an interesting year for me. My reading taste changed a lot, so I'm really looking forward to actually looking back at that. But that is for next week's video. For now, I'm going to leave you here. So thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far but just don't know what you would like to comment, then let's leave a Christmas tree. Let's leave a little tree in the comments below. Thank you once again for watching. I really, really appreciate each and every single one of you that takes time to watch these videos. Whether you leave comments or not, I really, really do appreciate it. So thank you. If you have enjoyed this video though, please do consider giving it that thumbs up, subscribing and commenting. Those 3 things really help this channel out. My social media links and anyone I've mentioned will be linked below for you. And I will of course catch you in the very next video.